Good morning, Quasar Markets Live. Happy Monday to everybody. I am joined by my main man, Stephen Big Beat, or the CEO and founder of Quasar Markets. I, of course, am Howard Greenberg, your host. Steve, how you doing today? I know you've got a storm on the way, man. We're going to get you out of here early today.
Yeah, Howard. I think this is probably the biggest storm coming towards the state of Florida. It's the big swath, the main part, and coming out of Mexico, not coming out of the Africa. So, I saw where on the news where I-75 is a parking lot going north. So
I can imagine.
hotels
I
will
can
be
imagine.
filled. We heard yesterday that Sam's Club and those Costco's are already out of water and milk and eggs and gasoline. I mean, there were lines at the gas already. So, look, it's a big storm, but we're tough down here.
Yeah, absolutely. All the best wishes to everybody in the Florida area, especially I know a little bit to the west of you. They got really nailed in the last one, and this one's looking to hit them again. So
Yeah.
hopefully, that market's looking a little weak here before open. Middle East on the 1 year anniversary of the first invasion of Israel. We saw the attempt by Hezbollah and Hamas, and they were hitting all three sides today of the West Bank. So far, not any casualties that I've seen. They've been able to repel it, but that definitely brings some malaise to the market for sure, right?
Yeah. For me, there is an interesting number coming out today that I think I really want to see it, and I really want to understand it today, and that's consumer credit. Um, we know where banks are having issues. We know where banks are getting nervous, and are they taking out more loans? Rates are coming down. Are homes getting bought? Right? We don't know that yet. We're going to find that out in a couple of days. But consumer credit, are banks willing to give people more credit out there, and are they taking it? So that's a big number for me today that comes out, of course, at 3 o'clock. So I really want to see that number today.
That's a great point, and I'll point that Jamie Dimon was big on that, if you remember, for why he felt that we could get this soft landing that we are seeing. He called
Right.
this out about a year and a half ago. Not my favorite person, but I do listen to what he says because the man is, one of the smartest guys out there. And he made it clear one of the things he was looking at, we were holding all time, records amount of money in the bank, yeah, as
Yep.
American consumers, and credit was at its all-time low. We had just gotten all those stimmy checks. Everybody was paying down their debt, and I think that's a great point to watch this week. And it could be a prelude. That's a great call as to start to giving a look at how you might play earnings this week, because
Hmm.
Friday, huge earnings. We've got BKNY, Bank of Mellon, New York. We have JPM, JP Morgan, WFC, Wells Fargo, and then BlackRock. So four of the largest financial services company.
Yep.
And we'll have a lot of data before that to kind of take a look at. But I think that consumer credit could start to give you an idea of which way to play those. So that's a great one. As we're sticking on the econ data, obviously CPI and PPI Thursday and Friday, is one of those more important to you right now than others?
CPI probably, but they're pretty equally in thought about in the Fed. So CPI is probably more.
Okay. That tends to be the one I think gets the more play. Got to talk a little bit about Bitcoin here. We're staying up at almost $63,000, so pretty good weekend there. It held up, even went up a few points basically over the weekend. You and I talked about it. The big sort of news in Bitcoin. We have HBO is going to have their show
Real
on Tuesday.
quickly, Howard, the Israeli military now says it has conducted a precise attack in Beirut a
Yeah,
short while ago.
I did see that. They said that they did it as a preemptive strike, that they saw Hezbollah
Mhm.
trying to do it. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt when it comes to that war right now, they're going to be proactive. They've shown that on this side. It isn't making everybody happy, and I don't really like to talk about the war that much, but that's I'd rather see that than the other side, which is you end up with another October 7th massacre last year.
Right.
So, preemptive strikes, yeah, and they're hitting all over. They actually hit over the weekend in one day. They bombed Syria, Beirut, Gaza, and West Bank. All had skirmishes last night. So, definitely trouble there. Bitcoin trying to regain 63, like we were saying. HBO has their piece coming up tomorrow night. I saw it all over Twitter on the weekend. You actually called out who is in the lead when it comes to betting market. Polymarket has betting on this, and it is Mr. Sassman so far in the lead. It'll be interesting. As you and I have talked about, this isn't going to change anything about Bitcoin because most likely the 2 or 3 people that are all thought to be in the lead there are all dead. So it's not like those wallets are moving.
That's true.
Yep. When we get into some individual stocks here, Steve, I've pulled some stuff up here. Pfizer in the news pretty big this morning. Activist investor Starboard Value has bought $1 billion stake in the company, and they're looking to make Pfizer make some changes. What do you think about this? Pfizer was a darling during COVID. I'll pull up the daily chart here.
Yeah,
So
I
you can
mean,
see
look,
that.
I've said this a lot. The biotech is the key player, and you're going to see lots of, as I've been saying for the last 6 months, as rates come down, as money comes into the banks, and they have no other place to put it, mergers and acquisitions, and you're going to see activist investors like Starboard start to make plays and wanted to make changes, and they have watched Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, which is back up again today because of
Yep.
their weight drugs. Guess who's behind on all of that? Pfizer. Pfizer has been a major player in medicine for, I mean, centuries now at this point. And it has been a good company. But they have really lost their way over the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. And because of that, I think Starboard's right. And I would say, for maybe the first time, maybe give Starboard a seat at Pfizer, at least some speaking abilities there, because quite frankly, I think they're right on this one.
Yeah, a couple of things that I would point out, like you said, they were at an all time high near $55 during COVID. They were the first ones to get out a COVID vaccine, so you really saw that. They're now down trading about 28.58 before this news came, and year to date down a little bit over a point, and in 12 months down 15%. So while we've seen most of the other companies, as you said, a lot of their competitors, Eli Lilly, Novo, all of those moving up. We're seeing it the other way. The other thing that I actually liked was they seem to have a plan at Starboard. They've been partnering with the former CEO, Ian Reed, and the former CFO. They want them to come back in and give a little bit of guidance. So maybe we do see something out of this, and you can see its performance has definitely trailed the market. On the upside of Pfizer, there is talk that they might be the first to market with the weight loss drug as a pill as opposed to an injectable. So we'll see there.
And I've said
Steve,
this, Howard, even since on TV the other day. This is where we're going. When I talk to people about weight loss drugs, and I am shocked about how many people are actually on it. I thought I was like one of the few. That they, oh, I don't want to do it because I don't want the shot. I mean, taking a vitamin, a pill like a vitamin is going to be easy, and the companies that make those as a pill are the ones that are going to win. And I think it's something that people will just be on like a vitamin the rest of their lives.
yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on Pfizer because, again, all-time highs above 50, right around 55, now
Yep.
trading 28. This could be a good spot. You look at that daily chart, it looks pretty good here. So I might get with our boy Jeremy Vreeland and see if we can't put together some stuff on that. So we'll definitely keep you guys informed on what's going on there. Steve, as you know, I always come to you when it comes to commodities. Let me just auto fit that in there. We have Arcadium Lithium, a company that I was not that familiar with. Talk of them getting bought out by Rio Tinto. They're up about 35% on that news, so it definitely likes the news. Um,
I would tell you, Howard, to pull up the chart LIT at Lithium's ETF Tech. Again, up another 3.5% this morning. Was up 3.5% on Friday, and this thing is going to the roof. I like this. Lithium is good. We know that. I've heard there's a lot of room to the upside. 46 now, 47.70. The high there back during COVID was 93 something, 97 something, and there's some room to run here. Lithium is high right now,
yeah,
and as you see problems in China, because China is a big producer of lithium. Latin America is also a good big producer of lithium, and guess where else is a big producer of lithium? Right here in the United States, Nevada, Utah area has lithium mines almost everywhere, and that's good. These are going to be three major producers. But when you see two areas like LATAM and China having issues, that's going to push the price up. And as we move over to electric vehicles, and I know people keep saying, "Oh, I'll tell you what's happening right now. The number one selling car right now, if you can get it, is hybrids.
Yeah,
Hybrids right now are hot, and they still need lithium for that. So I
absolutely.
know that what you're going to sell more cars. That's great, but you got phones, you've got laptops. Are you producing more or less of those? More, and so they all need lithium. So
Yeah,
yeah, I think
solar
lithium.
solar, the batteries that Elon's trying to build to, his Tesla power banks, all that, they all use lithium in there. So that is definitely in play. I thought it was a nice move by Rio Tinto too because it diversifies their portfolio more. They've got iron, copper, and aluminum. This now pushes them into the world of lithium, moves them in the right direction. Hey, I got a big U-turn, left turn I forgot to tell you about that I was going to bring up.
All right.
Platinum on sale at Costco. I was at Costco this weekend. They're pushing platinum. What do you think about that? Are people going to buy platinum? I get gold, but this is platinum.
hmm So for many, many years, platinum, Howard, has been the most expensive precious of the precious metals of the three: gold, silver, and platinum. And those are the ones that most jewelers use too, as well. So you can go buy. My wedding ring is platinum. Why? Because it's more sturdy. Actually, it's a very good conductor of electricity, but it's very expensive. The price. Why is it a big deal? Okay. People always ask me, when's a good time to buy gold and when's a good time to sell? And I can break it down to charts, and I can break it down into all that fun stuff. But I can tell you exactly when. And I tell the same thing, always say the same thing. When you watch TV and you see people selling gold in gold commercials, that's the time to sell. Why? Because they're the ones that have the gold, silver, and platinum, and they're trying to sell it to you at
Right.
the high
Don't become
because
the
they've
exit
been buying.
liquidity, right?
But when you don't see those commercials on TV, um, they're accumulating gold and silver, and they don't want you to be pushing up against them. And we're seeing lots. I mean, oh my goodness, you can't even watch CNBC or Bloomberg anymore without a commercial of gold coming out, right? And so, yeah, that's. I think gold and silver are very high right now. Do I think it's going to go higher? Yes, I do actually. I think precious metals can actually go higher. But Costco found a winning combination by selling micro areas of gold, and they sold out of their gold, and the demand was so high they should sell everything that they can sell. That's what their
Yeah, they
job
sold $10
sell
million
things that people
dollars last
want.
year. When I saw that number too, that's, the other part that I looked at it. Costco COST is a stock that I am a fan of. I think that they are one of the best in class. So I was interested to see that. Sorry to take a left turn on you. We haven't
No, you're
talked
good.
about that. Getting back to, I don't want to make your ego any bigger, but Steve, Apple,
Yeah.
Jeffries is right on board with you. They downgraded him today, and I felt like I was listening to you when I read this morning.
Yeah.
Expectations on the iPhone are too high. Where did I hear that last week? Where did I hear it 2 weeks ago?
I think I always call it channel checks for me, right? When I am looking at a stock and I know what, just like I said with Costco, they're in the business to sell, right? They're not in the business to make you happy. They're in the business to sell you whatever and hope you buy another one, right? And so far, I feel like, and I've been saying this for years now, that Apple are not making products that people actually want. They're stuck in the ecosystem right now. Now, I like Apple. I have an iPad sitting next to me. And I understand the ecosystem is a little bit easier to understand than, say, an Android or a Google phone. But I will say this much. When you're looking at channel check, meaning a channel check means I'm looking at the companies that are producing it, right, in China or where they're getting the parts from. Those are channels. Are they buying from those channels? So in other words, is a company putting together the manufacturer in the Shenzhen province, are they buying those raw materials to get to the second product to get to the manufactured product, right? And then shipping. So there's like 4 or 5 different things before we even get the product. There's a few missing pieces in that right now, and one of them is lithium. We're seeing it right now. Lithium prices are going higher. They're having a hard time sourcing that. They're also having a hard time sourcing manufactured products. So Jeffries is saying, okay, you know what? People really don't they're not feeling good right now about the economy. They're worried about geopolitical. Do I really want to spend more money on a new phone that really doesn't give me anything new? Right? That's what they're saying.
Right.
And you know what? They're like, I'm excited about a new phone. Okay, great. My wife's buying a new phone. But she's like, I'm only doing it because it's my upgrade time and it's free. If it wasn't, she probably would say, you know what, I can just wait. Now
I'm
I'm the
gonna have to
person
talk
who,
to Catherine because I'm in the same boat. So is my wife, and I think I might wait.
see, it's exactly what I'm saying. Right.
And I am their buyer. I mean, I tend to upgrade
Yeah.
as soon as my thing comes up. Because let's face it, your battery stops working. They're pretty good
Correct.
at making sure that battery stops the
Yeah.
second you are eligible for an upgrade, so to speak. But you've convinced me on this one. So I got to ask the wife because she runs the show, which way this goes. Because yeah, everything I see, no one's excited about it. No one's excited. So
Now,
I'm
if you
with
want to talk
you.
about phones over the weekend, I have a Samsung. I have the latest S24 Ultra, and I'll tell you, I love my Samsung. But over the weekend, I have been fighting it. I've been fighting it for weeks, and I finally did it. I use Samsung Messaging because
Oh yeah.
I'm used to it. But you know what? Google makes you upgrade. Samsung lost the fight, and I've been no, I don't want to upgrade. No, not now. No, don't want to upgrade now because I was nervous about it. I was like, am I going to lose contacts? Google is making you push over to their system, and Samsung is actually okay with it now. They want you to go to Google because it's easier on their messaging system, right? So
Right.
RCS.
Ah.
Google is going to be a winner in this because people are like, well, I want Gmail and I want my Google this and Google that. Google is winning that, and I think Google is probably the most underrated stock right here in the Mag 7.
You heard it here from Steve. That's a big call here. I have to say, Google's the one you haven't heard a ton about lately, but as you read stuff, you see their name everywhere. In other words, as you're reading analyst reports and they talk about competition or they talk about, who's innovating in the world of AI and who's getting the right things done right, it's Google that seems to be the one that you comes up time and time again. So I can't argue with
And
that
when
call at
people
all.
ask me, all the time, who's going to win in the AI war? And it's not the people that makes the AI; it's the ones that have data. And if there's any company on the planet that has data on us since the beginning, it's Google. They know our search engines, they know our emails, they know everything about us. So it's Google.
Yep, absolutely. Hey, Steve, before we get to the open, I have another one I have to ask you about. I was reading up on Micron today
Yeah.
because they have their CEO, Sanjay Maratha, has decided he's going to sell $20 million in stock. And that isn't that surprising. What I saw first that caught my eye is it said the sales won't start till November 7th. So this wasn't something that happened in the past. I did a little more research. I found out that he has a family trust that controls his shares and that he has systematically been selling over the last year and a half on that. And I had never heard of that before. So is that like commonplace and I just hadn't heard? Is that out of the ordinary? Do you like to see that? I mean, I love seeing that he's saying that, hey, there could be a blip. This is why. So I wanted to get your feedback on that.
So I'm looking at the news on this, Howard, and I'm about to do the math here because I love math, as everybody knows. He is about to sell 520 million shares. Is that right?
No,
20,
200,000
20,
shares for 20 million. He sold
20 million, right?
800,000 ending in August 8th.
So I'm going to pull it up there, $20 million in shares, right?
Yeah,
And if I divided that by $102 a share right now,
right about
yeah,
200. Yeah.
yeah. So 196,000 shares. All right. The average volume in the company on per day is 21.95 million, and the I'm going to look at here now. The average volume is 28 million, so it's
28.
not even
Yep.
that million. And the shares float, the shares that are out there right now are 1.1 billion. This won't even dent the stock. So if people are looking to sell the stock based on what he is selling, no. If they're doing it because he's probably got a reason, maybe it's taxes or he's trying to slow down or he has too many shares, but he wants to buy a new home down in Mar-a-Lago. A lot of reasons why CEOs sell.
Absolutely.
And this is not a big sell. $20 million, right? That's not a big sell. That's a house in Florida, right? On Star Island or Davis Island here in Tampa. Look, that's what it costs to buy. So maybe he's looking to do something like that. I wouldn't work. I wouldn't change my thesis about Micron based
No, and
on.
as you know, I'm a fan of Micron, and we've been looking at that again with Jeremy Vreeland and Matt Tuttle over on our watch list. They have been all over that stock, so that's why I wanted to bring it up. I wanted to get your input in what I should look at because I've never really done that. Looked at the outstanding shares and the volume. That makes all the sense in the world to take a look at that and see if it will do it. We're about 10 minutes from the open here. We still see QQQ down about 0.41. SPY down about 0.34. I'm going to put you on your spot like I do every morning, Steve. What do you think for today? Are we going to finish up or are we going to finish down?
Finish down. We are starting the process now of people getting nervous. Why? I was about ready to say it here in a second. We are less than 30 days away from the election. I saw something over the weekend that I didn't normally see. We have seen in the past business owners supporting candidates. Some will support the Republican candidates, some will support the Democrat. The biggest Democrat supporter is Warren Buffett. He's been doing that for years, right? The biggest supporter for Republicans, Peter Thiel, maybe Andrees. The guys in the tech industry, they want tax breaks. We get it, all right. But I saw something over the weekend that I never thought I would see. One of the richest men on the planet of the of the world, jumping up and down, excited for one candidate, and that was Elon Musk for Donald Trump over the weekend. He was becoming part of the revolution for MAGA. That's what he said. He wanted to be the new lead for MAGA. That to me tells me everything. That he thinks that his candidate's going to lose, or he would not get involved that heavily because he has needs tax breaks for
Absolutely.
Texas and needs. This is a guy who moved his headquarters from California
Right.
to Texas because he wanted the tax breaks. And I think that's something we need to really watch for because there might be some big political movements, and I don't think we've seen it yet. The October surprise, we're going to see it. I don't know what it is yet.
Interesting you bring it up because Anderson Horowitz actually went the other way over the weekend. They had
Right.
they had lost faith in Biden, had put their money actually behind Trump for the first time in a long time because they are very left leaning in general. They have moved their money back, announced they have given money to the Harris campaign after meeting with her and hearing what she has in plan. The other part there, with Musk doesn't surprise me. Peter Thiel, like you said, who was his co-inventor of PayPal. A lot of people forget that Musk had companies before Tesla that were very successful. One of them being PayPal, and that was his partner and his sort of, his best buddy when they were building that. As you've brought up Musk, I have to bring up, we have Robo Taxi Day coming here on the 10th, which is Thursday. Are you looking for anything there? I know you're not the hugest fan of that stuff. I'm a big tech nerd who loves a day like that. I'll be videotaping that and watching it all night. How about you?
I cannot wait to have robo taxis that just pick you up. The biggest expense in the world is always labor. And this is gonna put a lot of people out of jobs. It's unfortunate for the AI side of it and robo taxis not needing humans to actually drive us. This is going to happen. I mean,
Yeah, and you
it's
just
going
hit
to
on
happen.
Google, right? Google is
Waymo,
Waymo.
yeah.
The one that is that Musk is now chasing because they've taken a little bit of the lead. The thing to me is one of the reasons I always say don't fade the Musk is that he is building out. If you think I guess this is now the question: is it a car company or is it a technology company? It trades at 90 times earnings, which is similar to Snowflake and some of the other huge tech names. And we do see all the other EV companies sort of catching up to them. Will this push them back into the name as being thought of as a tech company as opposed to being a car company?
All right, let me tell you a little news I saw this morning. I just had to type it up, make sure I got the answer correctly. Um, Geico is reportedly, which is one of the largest insurance companies on the planet, is canceling coverage for the Tesla Cybertruck.
Wow, that is our boy
Yeah.
Warren Buffett, by the way. For those that don't know, Geico is a Berkshire
And when
Hathaway
people ask
company.
me, I always say, don't put politics and money together. That pretty much is, right? You got Warren Buffett, the biggest investor in the Democrat Party, and you got Elon, one of the biggest investors in the Republican Party. They're fighting it out right now. And guess what? They're going to go to war over a Cybertruck.
Yeah,
So,
that
you know
sounds like a
what?
pissing match, doesn't it? Between
Exactly.
those guys. So that's always going to be fun to watch because they will definitely get on each other's case, without a doubt. Other things we see here today is DuPont got a little bit of a downgrade. And I want to bring that up because it's something we talk about here on the show and tell people you have to take a look at. They just made an all-time high. Shot up. Look at that daily chart. They just made a really big move up. They were trading, $77. They moved up to over 90, set an all-time high. And what they basically said is, I don't think they're going to be bad, but what they said is, with their limited buyback support versus their valuation and the fact that they've hit all-time highs, they see a natural retracement, and it wasn't big. It was down to about $84 from its current 88.
Excuse me. Listen, the things that DuPont make, they make a lot of things. DuPont Nemours has been around for many, many, many years. They make Kevlar and Tyvek and things that goes in your house and support for fire departments and police departments. They really have their fingers in just about everything. They're kind of the too big to fail kind of company. Paint, water solutions, believe it or not, packaging materials. How many packages do you get over the weekend from Amazon?
Oh,
Right?
don't ask that question,
Those
please.
things. Solar materials, construction materials, fabric. DuPont is DuPont. DuPont also is DuPont in that they also are, unfortunately, they're also, if houses go down and that doesn't happen in real estate, you don't fix your house. But guess what's happening in the west coast of Florida, right? Guess what's happening in a lot of places. So they got to fix those homes and building and construction materials. I'll tell you a stock right now that I'm really thinking about, and I've been thinking about it for a while. It's Home Depot here. Home Depot is literally on close to the all-time highs. We're literally all-time high. There's 52-week range right now is 412.97, which is I think it is the all-time high. You're at 404.85.
Yeah.
Home Depot's not going to go short here because they're going to be needing them for these hurricanes, and Home Depot's going to have blue tarps everywhere. We're going to blue tarp cities. So yeah, Howard. To be honest with you, Home Depot, DuPont, Lowe's, all those companies are going to do very well come the next decade. Actually, if you want to stock to hold forever, yeah, there it is.
Yep, absolutely. One that that has had good performance, definitely best in class when it comes to that. One of the stocks that we cover here, because I love wine so much, I don't think it gets a lot of coverage other places, is Duckhorn Winery, Napa, NAPA. They announced today they're getting bought out. Stock is up 101% on that news. It was trading at 540. They're paying 1010, the private equity company, to take that over. So interesting there. What that leads me to do is say start looking at Constellation and some of these other wine companies that are having earnings in the next week or two. Again, could give you an idea of what's going on. I do think people are buying wine again. So we'll see what happens there.
And I had talked about for a while now. It's LVMH. It's Louis Vuitton.
Yeah.
We talk about this forever that the luxury market is doing very well. I just saw the news right here that the up another 1.6% based on the fact Chinese stimulus measures. I'll tell you something most people don't know is China and India are getting the most movement from one class, the poor class, to the middle class, and they like luxury goods. They're looking at buying luxury.
Especially luxury alcohol. You just named the two countries with the largest consumption of high end cognac, high end bourbons, all of the stuff like that. That these companies, and that's where Duckhorn wins. They make great wines. They don't make those $7. Although Decoy is pretty good. Steve, you got any feel for what you think is going to be the financial sector on Friday? We got J.P. Morgan, we got Bank of New York Mellon, we've got WFC, BlackRock, all reporting.
All right. Well, those companies in the financial sector, they really are dependent on two things. They're dependent on traders. Are people trading? And the second one is, are they trading? Are they also making money on their investments and trading? Markets have been pushing up here, are all-time highs. So yeah, they're looking good. I'd never bet against J.P. Morgan and Goldman Sachs. That's just dumb. But I will say this much. There might be a slowdown over the next few months as these companies are starting to find out that the bond market is not good. Bond markets are pulling back because the rates are coming down. I will say this much: if the traders come back and stay here with us throughout the holiday season, yes, then it's going to be okay. Because what I think is going to happen is they're going to come out and report good earnings and bad guidance. So they're going to say, oh, it's China, it's India, oh, not India, it's Ukraine, it's the war over in Israel and Hamas. They're going to start pointing at geopolitical issues, and I'm going to be like, you know what? They're saying their guidance is not good, based, and they're going to say it's not our fault, it's everybody else's fault. Well, okay, that's great, but we have to trade what's in front of us, and they're not seeing that. So I am looking more importantly to guidance than I am to what their earnings numbers are.
That's a great tip. I always agree with that. You know, what we tend to see is when it gets that in first initial numbers come out, people react. And then as the analysts read through and listen to what people say, that's when we tend to get the true direction coming out. We are open here. Tick's been down for the first, few prints here, down about 450. So again, we're getting that quick sell-off right off the bat on most things.
For those people who listen to me on Thursday and Friday with SAVE, Spirit Airlines, up another almost 2% here.
2%, I saw that. You
I
did
thought the
nail
sell-off
it.
was huge. We picked the bottom out. I sold too early, but we're still pushing up on Save. Eli Lilly just went green here. Nova Nordisk is up 2% here. Nvidia is up 1%. AI is still hot. I mean, you might keep saying, "Oh, it's overhyped." It's completely
And again,
nonsense.
China did reopen last night, they're trading. Their holiday ended, and we see Baba up 2.5, Bidu 2.61, Lee and Neo were up also here earlier. Taking a look at JD, up
And
about
we talked about it.
1.58.
Elon Musk jumping around the stage. Well, DJT stock is up 3%.
It is moving. He's been an early mover there. Trying to
Yeah, we're
see.
all right, but I'm not seeing it. The VXX here is now up 2%. So to me, I don't know. I'm not a buyer of this market yet. I
Yeah,
think we
VIX
can
almost to 21 here. That's pretty high. So
listen to our boy Scott Bowery. You buy VIX when you can, not when you need to or you
right.
have
If
to.
anything here, this is usually where Scott would be looking to the downside at a put credit spread or something else there in his rooms.
Nvidia pushing here though with 126.05 now. That's just jumped there. Now up almost 1%. SMCI up 1.6%. There it goes. Eli Lilly now up 1.3. It was only up a half percent. Now Eli Lilly's jumping. It's biotech. We've been talking about that for the last weeks. Look at that. Look at Eli Lilly now jumping.
Bitcoin here jumped back above 63, and that's bringing MSTR MicroStrategy, excuse me, up, as we all know, a good proxy
Boeing's
for
up another
Bitcoin.
percent today, right? As people think the strikes are going to end, that we saw the strikes ending the longshoremen. It looks like they were have a little bit of egg on their face, saying they're going to shut the country down. That really pissed me off, as most people know, and I don't like that kind of talk. You have grievances, we take it out the right way. We don't take it out that way. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, that one was.
Oh, Patriot safety Jabril Peppers got arrested Saturday, huh?
Uh-oh. Speaking of NFL, you've been saying you're not watching it this year, but are you starting to get excited now as your Commanders are looking pretty damn good there? Jaden Daniels looks like the real deal. Is he the second coming of RG3, or is he really the real deal?
Oh God, I loved RG3 when he was coming in. I have a helmet, signed autograph footballs from RG3, and I've been a Washington fan for so long that I don't even know. It scares me just to watch him anymore. So, yes, I have been with one eye open and one eye closed. I'm still a fan. Obviously, I will continue to be a fan the rest of my life, but it is what it is.
Got to give you a couple of halts here, right? Almost on the open.
Yeah.
LASE, laser photonics, LUPD, which means stopped on the way up. I also see SOBR.
Holy moly, Nvidia up now up 1.5%.
SOBR up, getting stopped here also, which is a safe ink. Not really familiar with
Now
them. So a couple
127 on Nvidia.
of halts. Nvidia moving up nicely. Amazon up 2.5 points here, Steve, as we get ready for Amazon Day. I can tell you the wife was on the phone with Target, had a lot of problems with their sale on, they had Circle Day started on Saturday. Things were ringing up incorrectly. I had my wife ready to, beat down the doors of Target to get the stuff corrected. Oil, Steve. We got to talk a little bit about oil. WTI was definitely pushing up here on the threat of more conflict in the Middle East. You know, it's 75, 874. What do you see here as, you know?
We're not done. The buyers are still stepping into oil. I think they're very concerned. The Middle East is not getting better. If that countries that don't normally step into it, like Saudi Arabia and Qatar and Oman, if they start to get a little more involved in this, that's oil and OPEC, right? And Jody oil. And but we as the United States don't really have to worry about it too much because we have plenty of it. And we are. Hey, listen, as the United States, we love this. And if you look at it, XOM, these companies that are very U.S. centric are doing very well because oil is at $75 a barrel, right? It doesn't cost us nearly as much to pump it out of the Gulf that it does out of the North Sea, which is why Brent is always higher than us. But if you look at it from the perspective of where the SPR buying was, you heard the buy. I said it 2 weeks ago. I haven't heard any SPR. Guess what happened last week? They started buying oil again, right? Because it was like, hey, 68, $70 a barrel. We're getting cheap here.
I
Boom. That
also
goes
have to
right back
say, you
up.
know, if they're buying, they're probably expecting some more conflict in the Middle East. Maybe that was going to move those prices up also. So it could give you a little bit sort of what we would say insider tip there, right?
Yep. And I just saw where or Apple and Amazon have been, look at that, have just now been downgraded there. Wow. Yeah.
I saw Chevron made a big sale of some of their Canadian holdings um, over the weekend. CVX, they're up
Boeing's up
1.57.
1.5% here. Wow. Look at that.
Yeah, Boeing up 1.5, Baba up 2.09, Base up 4.06, Couchbase, package software company does software as a service. We've been following them a little
Albemarle,
bit here.
ALB just went green. I mean, that's a lithium play right there, right? I mean,
Yeah.
these even with the market going down, you're starting to see, you're still seeing the plays that we're showing, right? Dow's only down 150 points, and the Nasdaq's only down 48. But there could be some slippage. I mean, you're looking at okay. So a couple of things that we need to talk about right now is, you're looking at we're going to have a huge auction at 11 o'clock for the bond auction, right? Is there still appetite for debt? And I think the answer is probably no, especially not short-term debt. I think 3 month, 6 month bills probably won't be a lot, but I know there is the consumer credit numbers coming out. Are people borrowing to buy a car? Are people borrowing to buy a house? And you're going to find that in obviously the 10-year or whatever. You'll know better because I think people think that the rates are going to continue to come down. Now I saw where that it was 50 basis points was going to be the next move, and now it's pretty much not the next move. It's 25. We've been talking about that for a while. I think the next move is 25 basis point cut. So if that's the case, I don't think you'll see a good bond auction, and I don't think you're going to see consumer credit good either. I don't think people will do that. I also believe because we saw FedEx saying we're going to hire the same 250,000 people for the holiday season. They didn't increase it. They didn't cut it. So they're nervous. They're not adding to it. So there's a lot of things telling me. Again, you asked me earlier what I thought about with JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs and their earnings, and I said, look at what guidance they're going to tell us. So no, I'm not. I'm not a buyer of these stocks. I'm really not. I'm actually going to be starting short pretty soon.
You heard it here first. Trying to take a look here at decliners. Trevena down about 44%. Trying to see if there's any news here on that. Not seeing anything pop up.
Is 63,000 on Bitcoin? Is that just the psychological number here for everybody, Howard?
Well, it's still that spot that we talked about 3 weeks ago, where the short-term holders were getting into profits. So what you're seeing here is it sort of probably change hands as I do my research this week. I get more info from Glassnode tomorrow. On Tuesdays, they'll let us see what happened last week, give us more in-depth info. But if I had to put my finger on it, that's where the selling's coming from. Those people that held on for about 3 months, they watched it go down to 51. They almost, had a heart attack, and now that it's moving up, they're going to give us a little bit of sell pressure there. We also see that, the ETFs have kept this in an area where it's sort of range bound right now, because again, a lot a lot of retail, a lot of institutional buyers on that side, and they're using it for hedging. So when they see it get up to a certain level, they're moving the other way out of those ETFs. So, definitely something to see. And
I'm just seeing now the news has just upgraded Hurricane Milton to a Cat 4 now. So
oof,
it looks like we are we're right in the path. So there we go.
see a stop on the way down here. Zenatech, Zena just stopped here on the NASDAQ. And you can see it had, wow, dropped from 4 to 331 right on the open. So that's what we're seeing so far. Let's see what else is hitting the markets here. We'll say your DJT is sort of leading the way here this morning, up about 6%. Has pulled back a little bit from the first move up. Was up over 7% at the time. VIX struggling to keep that 21 mark so far.
And I might have sold my Chinese mutual funds a little too early. Alibaba, look at Baba,
Yeah,
170.
the Goldman Sachs, I don't know if we've mentioned that already this morning. They just came out, they said that there's about a 4.5% upside on the S&P before the end of the year. So that was pretty positive to hear. Even more so again, which goes against my thesis that China's a little overplayed, that it's not doing as well. I was re-listening as I was doing some videos this weekend to Michael C. Litt in your interview with him a few weeks ago. And he gave you some reasons why China isn't out of the woods yet. So, and he
Yeah.
brought it up right there. You're going to see rallies. He brought it up. He said you will see pumps, you will see rallies as they do things, but just keep in mind they haven't solved their problems, which are isolationists that they've sort of become. The way they went out on sort of the offensive and were giving a hard time to trade partners and sort of trying to set policy as opposed to being diplomatic. He didn't like that. He also pointed out that their real estate issues are not going away just through this stimulus. So we'll be interested to see, when you have someone that good as a global strategist tell you that, while you might see rallies, you should position yourself a certain way. I think that's what you did in taking profits, especially profits up towards 70% on some of those things you were holding, is something you always have to do and that we always stress you do here at Quasar Markets.
I was just looking, and I think look at that. Look at Bitcoin just took off 63,240. I think people are they're ignoring the news and ignoring everything else and just saying, you know what? Okay, yes, we're all in the profit. I'm in the profit. I love it, but I'm not going to get out of it. Look at that. Just there it goes. Boom.
Yeah, it's moving in the right direction today. Like I said, we definitely have momentum behind us in general when it comes to Bitcoin right now. We're seeing it more. I see it every day when I talk to companies that are looking to buy it in Latin America and Central America, and a lot of different parts of the country that are trying to get access to Bitcoin as a hedge against their triple-digit inflation and other issues they have. And if you're in the Middle East right now and things are bombing around you, you can still, as long as you have, cell service, you have access to your Bitcoin. So in times of trouble and flight, it is definitely, and we're seeing it. I'll have to give Stephen Flanagan a little bit of a hard time. Remember, he was asking why it wasn't a flight to safety last week. Looks today like it is getting a little bit of a flight to safety. So, it just takes a little while sometimes. Amazon now down 2.87% here, getting hit pretty hard this morning.
Yeah, I mean that downgrades were really rough on Amazon. I think I want to see the numbers, but when they had Prime days, now they've got all kinds of days for sale. They kind of like it, right? At some point, people are going to be like, okay, I've got enough Amazon Prime. I've got enough Amazon in my house, right? I don't know. I still like Amazon, but I think their biggest winner is their Amazon, and I know because I spent on Amazon AWS web services, right, with Elastic and with servers for websites and things of that nature, right? So AWS is doing quite well for them. I wouldn't be hitting them too hard, to be honest with you.
No, I agree. They're
That
targeting.
VIX is pushing here now again.
Yeah, 2106. I think the war
Yeah.
is, the threat of war is starting to become more and more prevalent in the Middle East, unfortunately, has people also looking. Retail getting hit here. Nordstrom's down about 0.52 here, JWN. Kohl's KSS down almost a point.
Novo Nordisk NVO now up 2.22%.
Nvidia up
Boeing's up 2%.
1.26 here, moving up in the right
Yep.
direction nicely.
The themes are still the same. AI is still hot, but the war is hot, right? So there's this mixture right now in the market of what it's a stock pickers market. This isn't one you just buy the whole Qs and buy the S&P and go, okay, this is what I'm going to do for the next 2 or 3 months. If you're doing it for long term, great. That's a great thesis. But if you're only doing it for short term and you're playing it, I would not be long the stock market here. I don't like being long on highs. I like being long on lows. I don't
Right.
see that. Right? Yeah.
IPW, one of the ones Scott Bauer gave us here on the show, up about 2.38% here. Like you
Look
said,
at
NVO up 2.23.
63.3 now. I think a lot of people have been asking about real estate. To me, if you're going to buy real estate, I still like O, ticker O.
I just had that up, Steve. What are you
Oh, did
staring at my
you?
screen?
Look, if you're just being trying to be protective of yourself, it's real estate and investment trusts. It's realty income. Call it realty income. It's the most widely held REIT, so it would take a lot of selling in order to crush this one. And they pay monthly, and they pay a
Yep.
5.1% dividend. So this is safe with some upside. So I do like this. I don't know that we're in the right place for it because we're near the highs. The 52-week high there's 63.61, and we're at 61.59. So there's that. But if you're looking to protect yourself, if you're worried about it, there's the one thing the United States has the most, and it's the most valuable thing on the planet, is land. It's real estate, right? So this is one of those places. Now, what's the difference between this real estate trust and all the rest of them? Why is it not a hotel or whatever? It's not. It's the land that the businesses sit on.
Right.
So no matter what the businesses sell or don't sell their product, they still got to pay rent, and it goes to O. So yeah,
I will
I
say
still
that
like.
it's in a good spot. You brought up a couple of weeks ago, and I had put it on the chart here and set up that it had taken former resistance at 61.11 and turned it into support here, as we've seen. And you've got some nice zone of support here in between about 60.03 to 61.11. If it bounces off there, moves back up like it's trying here, that's a pretty good sign here. It made a higher pivot point here at 63.56 versus the previous pivot point at 63.13 versus the previous high pivot point at 61.07. Same thing, we see the lows, right? The low here, 56.36. First retracement, 59.06. Next retracement here, 60.06. This retracement, if it really is at that 61.03, could be a nice time to make a move here. So that is a great call there, Steve, on O based on what the chart's showing us. I will say I am a little bit happier to see that PDD is getting a little bit of a hit here. So not everything in China going up all in one felt swoop. We are seeing a little bit of picking winners and losers there. As we know, that's when the market tends to be moving better, when we see the people picking the winners and the losers as opposed to just everything moving in one direction. Tick, man, and tick can't get positive here. We haven't seen a positive tick since we opened. We're at negative 503. SPY's down 0.35 now. We see QQQ down 0.44. Like I said,
63.5 now there, Howard. So is money coming out of the stock market going into crypto?
it looks like it right now. And again, it's not really moving out of the stock market because this would probably be the ETF reshuffling. As we know, that happens usually in the first half
Yep.
hour of the morning. So this is a lot of this movement that we see in Bitcoin early in the morning is IBIT, which is BlackRock's and Grayscale's funds reorganizing. But it does show, what it does show is an institutional appetite for Bitcoin to start the week. And that's more the takeaway that I would come out of it. As I'm looking here at heat maps, we see Apple down about 0.91, Amazon almost down 2 points. Not seeing really any sectors outside of technology services that are showing much green. Health and technology seems to be getting hit pretty hard here. TMO down 0.65, DHR down 0.6, AMGN down 0.63. Do see a few winners there. Pfizer is up 2.1% on that news we brought you this morning. Eli Lilly is up 1.1. So we are seeing a little bit of movement to the upside on some of them here. Finance companies pretty much outside of Wells Fargo. I don't see a major finance company in the green here. Berkshire down almost half a point. Bank of America down 0.2. BlackRock down 0.34, Goldman Sachs down 0.37. So financial sector definitely getting hit hard here. Uh, Again, consumer durables getting hit hard, led by Tesla down 1.55, Ford down 0.61, LEN down 1.38, NVR down 1.71. So we're not seeing much. Tick trying to pounce up here. It was down as low as a negative
I
600.
just
Now trying to get at least closer to positive.
I see Wynn Resorts here up 1.16% as they got and they've been awarded the first commercial gaming operators license in the UAE by
Oh,
their gaming authority. So yeah, WYNN Wynn.
I am a big fan of WYNN. We've talked about it a lot. It was moving up as it was the last few weeks based upon the reopening of Macau, China, and the stimulus there. I mean, you can look at this sucker has really skyrocketed.
And I like Melco MLCO. That's one of
We've
my
talked about
favorites.
that, especially during COVID, that we played that a lot. Melco. LVS is another one in that area that has a lot in Macau to keep an eye on. LVS. You'll get news, and it might be the news is already hitting as we're in here because you tend to get the casino news out of Macau right after the holidays. You know that's where some people spend it with their families, some people spend it at the casinos.
I'm found this is interesting for you, Howard. The Lego website, the block maker, that have been hacked by a crypto scam promoting a fake Lego coin.
Oh God, see those are the things that really are bad for the industry. That we need to root out of the industry without a doubt. Without a doubt, there.
Amazon
Seeing
now down
APD
almost three.
moving up here. See if we find any news there. Air products and chemicals up almost 8.1% here. Does look like there was some news. They were raised to a buy from a hold from Jeffries. Redburn adjusted price target on them to 255 from 210. So wow, a bunch of upgrades here on Air Products and Chemicals is the name of the company. APD is their symbol.
I love Air Products. I think they're a good company. I'm looking at Amazon right now, Howard. I'm looking at the 200-day moving average, looking at the daily chart on Amazon here.
You got it.
Stock's now at 181. That 200-day there down there is right around 177. My eyeballs are on that because if you look back at on September the 5th, and if you look back around the 29th of August, those times they held on that 200-day moving average. And my eyes are on that one.
Yeah, I can't argue there. If it you still got some other MA support from the 100-day moving on average, even just a little bit below that. So you've got two levels of support here to be looking at. Question is, can it get through the 50-day MA where it struggled here the last few days, just a couple of days of that. But that area has been an important line in the sand for Amazon. We know 200-day MA is one of the most widely traded mean reversion trades out there. When something hits that 200-day MA, it tends to move towards the upside. See if we can get the tick to go positive. We still can't get that tick to go positive here yet.
No, it's been negative the whole morning, and down 1,000 is not good. That means, for every buyer out there, there's a lot more sellers. So I just nothing is meeting the road here. I mean, if we blow through 180 today, which looks like we probably will, 180.75 now on Amazon, it could go right on lower. We're literally on the lows of the day now on Amazon. 180. Yep, there you go. Just another low there on Amazon.
Yeah, I
Trying
think
to bounce a little bit off that linear regression on the early part of on the 1 minute, but I just don't like Amazon today, but I will be liking it if we can get down to the 177.
like I say, I'm with you there. That I'd be targeting more that 100 MA here as its final sort of spot. It's got to bounce off of this, give us a little bit of a test to the upside, but definitely could be an interesting play here. The thing that worries me too is, do we get to sell the news, right? I think usually you see a little play up as it enters into Amazon Day, and that starts tomorrow. So it's not going to have any of that. So that's not what you normally see as we enter those
Yeah.
big selling days. We usually see that moving up in the other
10
direction.
o'clock hour coming up, Howard, and there goes Nvidia to the downside, right? Some selling here going into the 10 o'clock hour close. So, I'll talk about Nvidia now on Schwab, I guess. Yeah, yeah, they are, and they're selling it here. So yeah, you can see a little bit of a
Interesting
hit
one I
here.
see from our man Daniel that Hims is moving up here on a news that they are joining the S&P small cap up 11%, which is interesting. They got hit hard the other day. You can see this gap down that they took from that 19 level all the way down to 16 because they were one of the companies that's what's called a compounder. Hims and Hers do not really make drugs. They don't create drugs. What they do is they try to manufacture them as cheaply as possible, and
Right.
look for drugs that are allowed to be done. And what it is Eli Lilly, when they were having problems stocking theirs, the FDA put it on a shortage list, and that allows compounders to produce the drug and help get it back in supply. They had dropped down there before that, so it's interesting to see it move up here as it enters the small cap 600 on Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm looking at. Wow, what's interesting? We've been talking about it for a while, and I'm going to pull it up here. Is all right. So is Pets. That's TDH Holdings here. PETZ. Sorry, PETZ. Now up 9% here. They make consumer non-durables, especially candy here. Um, when a company is like this low a price, I don't ever tell people to buy things like this. Um, this is interesting here. This could be exactly what I've been talking about the last few weeks is M&A. When I see stocks like this that are low and jumping like this, I don't know what to say sometimes because it could be a lot of things. But in this case, it could be a buyer here.
Taking a look here at the charts, I don't see any news on it that I was looking for. The only issue here is you could fill its gap down to 135. You got to be a little careful here. You can see it had
It's a
gapped
it's a
up.
Chinese company that makes pet food, right? And we've been I know that my doggy gets taken well good care of, right? I mean, he lives better than most humans. And look, Chewy, CHWY. I mean, these companies have done quite well. Chewy now down to about 3%
Yeah,
here.
Chewy though has made a run.
They have done very, very
Part of
well.
that was Chewy's darling of the Wall Street bets people, and Roaring Kitty was tweeting some stuff out that moved that up. You can see when it was at a low here of about 20, moved the price up to 33. Yeah, down
Another one down
3.2%.
there is Woof. Petco is down there. They're down a little bit today, obviously. But my goodness, Petco can come out. There could be another play for merger and acquisition. People do go to the store with their pets to see what their pets want. But that's pets have been a hot thing right now. People don't want to spend money on Amazon. They're going to spend. Look, I buy from Chewy. I get it.
Yeah, that's where I get my pups. You know, gets its dry food from there and its supplements and everything else that we give it. Seeing retail
Well,
still
Howard,
continue to get hit here this morning. Foot Locker down
yeah,
about 3.61. We talked about Nordstrom's down almost a point here. Kohl's down 1.27. I will say the stores didn't seem as busy this weekend as you normally see. I happened
right.
to have to go by the mall. They were not that busy.
And I'll tell you, the companies that supply Foot Locker, Nike, NKE, down another 1% today. So I don't have any Nikes anymore in my house. It's unbelievable. I mean, I wear sandals a lot, but I'm telling you, Nike's not got the Michael Jordans anymore. They just didn't do that anymore. And I look at that and I go, well, what about Adidas? It just is what it is. For those of you that don't know, it's Adidas is Adidas here in the United States. TADS is down a little bit. TADS down about 0.38%. That's not a U.S. company, but I do look at international for obvious reasons. But I'll tell you, if you look at both of those companies, they're not selling sneakers the way they were. And I'll tell you, as I get older and moving over there, It is SKX Skechers for me, down 2.25%. I do have Skechers. They have a 200-day moving average there, right around 63, 64.50. We're at 67 now. I tell you, that's been the play, those slip-on shoes for a lot of people. So, yeah,
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, as I get older, I definitely switched from Nike to Skechers, for the most part. I still wear Nike shoes. Where I see it is, apparel. Everything was Nike. They've lost the women, right? Lululemon, everybody else, sort of in that world now. I think that's part of it. My boy Jalen Brown on the Celtics, he got mad at Nike. He's making his own shoe. So,
right,
you're
right.
seeing some of that too. You're seeing where these guys are realizing that. Steve, I know you're going to leave us here in a few minutes, that you have to get ready for the hurricane, unfortunately, and the tough weather about to hit you guys down in Tampa. So I'm going to bring in Stephen Flanagan, our man, the FX man. Let's transition over here. Stephen, how are you doing today? Oh, Stephen, I'm not getting your volume. Hold it 1 second here. Stephen, try to talk to me again for 1 second. Can you check your mic, Stephen? I don't have volume coming from you right now. No. Give me 1 second here to try to figure out what is causing this issue. Everything's right there. Let me try to refresh here, see if that helps us, Stephen. That is up and working. Stephen, go right ahead. Try again. I am losing you, Stephen. Stephen, could you do me a favor and exit and come right back in? I apologize for that. I'm sorry, folks. We'll get this worked out quickly here. We're just having a quick issue with the screen. QQQ down 0.51 here. SPY down. Still seeing the tick in the negative, about down 227 here. Let's see. I see Steven back in the room. Let me get him reloaded here. Let's see if this does what we need it to do. I hear you, Steven, in the background, so you definitely got
Okay.
volume this time. Sorry about that. Now I just got to get you loaded in here.
Very good.
And the crowd can hear you.
Well, we wish Steve well in Florida. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
scary, especially since it's supposed to hit pretty much directly where he is.
Right. And, there's a lot of people down there with him. So hang tight and let's pray this storm peters out before it hits you.
Absolutely. Okay, Steven, now we almost look like we know what we're doing here.
Hey,
Sorry about that technical difficulty.
no problem.
How are, I got to ask, China's reopening today, right? They had their weeks long break. Are you looking for anything there to happen this morning as they reopen? Are you looking at any of the trading pairs there, the forex pairs?
Well, I think, you've seen a couple of investment banks make some major upgrades here in their China forecasts.
I saw that,
Uh,
Goldman Sachs, right?
right? Looking for 15 to 20%. But the key here is if the authorities deliver on their policy measures. We all come from this history where they've made these great comments and expectations, but we just never get the follow through. So if they deliver, you'd be looking probably at a continued surge in the domestic markets there. The problem is, when we begin to look at it, that's a positive because it's stimulus and stimulus to an economy. And we know how China plays a major role globally. It's a big positive for everyone. But they do control the amount of foreign direct investment. They do control the currencies very tightly. So it's not such a direct correlation, but it is something that we would look for to continue to be a positive to this global environment.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was a little surprised with that call of the 25, and it was interesting. We've had Michael Litt on, a good friend of Steve's, who was part of the Big Short and all that, global strategist.
That's right.
And he made. I was making some videos this weekend. In fact, I got to make sure I send you. I got a bunch of videos up on our YouTube page. Everybody, take a look. We got some exciting shorts there with Stephen Flanagan on that are great to take a look at. My worry is it didn't fix everything. China's had a very aggressive approach with their trade partners in the last year or two, right? Where they haven't been so much diplomatic like you're supposed to be. They sort of said, "Hey, this is what you're going to do," and get used to it. And their real estate, it would take a lot of stimulus, and they put a lot of stimulus already in this one towards that housing markets. So, do you think that the economy there is going to turn, or is this a short-term stimulus supply, like Michael said, where hey, there's going to be rallies? There are going to be sort of irrational rallies where this news comes out. Is this one where you're buying the news or you're selling the news?
Well, first of all, Michael is a sharp guy. I mean, he knows his numbers, and I would agree wholeheartedly that I'm looking for a short-term spike because of the stimulus. It's a large amount, and they have a supportive equity market fund that they're looking to put in. So yes, it should be a short-term. But with China, the problem is the bureaucracy that is inherent in that system. So
Right, like
you're
you said. I mean,
throwing,
I've watched them ban Bitcoin 15 times and seen,
yes, there
what
you go.
we've at least seen there is the law of diminishing return has sort of come in, right? Where it's
Right.
not as bad as it was. Every time now when they ban it, it only moves down 5%, not 55%.
There you go. So it's a classic buy the rumor and then sell the fact. And that's the way I'd be looking at it. They have some structural issues over there. I mean, if you just look at the amount of debt that China has versus the rest of the world, it far exceeds United States' levels. So, they would need continued growth, in the 6, 7, 8% level to continue to work on their issues. So I'm
Right,
not a
and
long-term bull.
that's tough to keep up. You got to
Yeah,
spend a lot of money to get those numbers to move there and to put their economy at a faster pace than what we're going to see in the U.S., which has now regained 3%.
that's right.
Anything that you saw Japan? I didn't notice. Did they make a decision on Friday? I didn't see any news on it.
Well, Japan is a classic, as we talked on Friday, with everybody on the left side of the boat fishing, it's good to throw a hook in on the right side. And everybody's gotten caught in the long yen trade. So you've seen a massive weakening, over 4%. I think it was like 4.2% the dollar yen weakened. And, that's a significant move as all the, let's call them the hedge funds that had this trade wrong, have to cover and get long. So dollar yen has pulled back a little bit on the geopolitical, still major concerns in the marketplace. Yen can act as a safe haven in a neutrally positioned marketplace. So not so much out of the yen, other than giving up some of its gains from the 149 level. The dollar has retraced a little bit lower. Things I am watching though, Howard, this week. We're all about interest rates again.
Oh yeah.
Wednesday we've got New Zealand coming out at presently at 5.25%. How long are they going to stay at that level? You've got a big one in the RBI India coming out. They're at 6.5%. And now what are they going to begin to do? Because they've had quite a bit of negative reaction in their markets. And then, of course, lesser perhaps, Israel has rates at 4.5. But the FOMC is also releasing the minutes on Wednesday. So Wednesday could be a real good day preceding Thursday's CPI, which is another inflation indicator and hence interest rate indicator. And then the big one I'm watching is the UK GDP on Friday. They're expecting plus zero point 0.2. I mean, come on, we're
That's
barely alive. The patient's got to get moving. So,
And
and
you've been
sterling,
talking about that sterling trade.
yeah,
We looked at it the other day and looked at some levels there that you thought were decent levels to take a look at.
yep,
I have that up right here, and I
yep,
still have it circled on my screen. that you think it could break below that 130 level, and if it does, look out below towards 128, even I think you said as low as 127 in that range, right?
That's right. Yeah, 125, 127, somewhere in there. And I think that is kind of what we would call a capitulation trade. I know you like to focus on the dollar index, and if we look at the dollar index, it's still trading in around 102.45 level right now after hitting a high of 102.70. And sterling is a piece of that dollar index trade. I still think we're looking at, an objective in the dollar index around a 104.2050 zone. And I think we could see capitulation in sterling as it breaks lower. Also, watch the euro dollar, which is a much larger contributor to the dollar index. That's beginning to get into some icy territory. You begin to break much below the 108.30 level, and that's also going to have a type of capitulation, as European growth has also been anemic.
Yeah, it's funny, and they're exact opposite charts here. If you look at the euro US dollar, it has almost an M formation, double top formation playing out. It's come back down the downside, whereas the sterling is the exact opposite of this look. So it will be interesting to see which one plays here.
Well,
I mean, that,
the sterling, of course, was the central bank governor suddenly indicating that
right.
they could lower interest rates, and that caught everybody in a long sterling short euro trade. So that was a tough, again, another one of those trades where everybody's, the herd mentality gets into a one-sided trade.
Yeah, and like you said, sometimes that's the time to put that fishing rod in on the other side of the boat, right, and try to see if
That's
you can catch
exactly
that
right.
wave coming back. And that's been a
Hmm.
big trade, mean reversion on everything. We're seeing it across all the markets. Buy the dips, contrarian plays coming out. Last week would have been a big week. I got to ask you before, early in the week, we have J.P. Morgan, we have Wells Fargo, we have BlackRock, we got Bank of Mellon, New York. What do you think we're going to see as we get towards earnings? You were a longtime JPM man in charge of their forex for years. What do you think we're going to see as we enter the weekend here?
Well, I had 43 years experience and most of it with JP Morgan. I did finish as the global risk manager in their electronic e-commerce FX system. But you know, you've had a kind of stable last 3 months. You've had some ups, downs, but I'm going to say that I'm expecting earnings to underperform, I think, a lot of people's expectations. And that's just, me sitting in an armchair seat on the sidelines now with no information whatsoever. But I just think that we are moving into a period where these earning results that come out the next couple of weeks, I think maybe start to begin to underperform. Everybody, the Bears have been beaten a lot of times in the markets here, and they're looking for a reason to get their claws back in. And, we are in a seasonal, very volatile period of time. Throw in the geopolitics all around the world, which sometimes I think the markets seem to ignore. Then you could have a very volatile session in the month of October.
Yeah, I mean that's what Steve just called for. Also, I will point out J.P. Morgan, while it did go up after the last earnings here. In general, I've watched this one for the last couple of years, and even on decent earnings, it has tended to go down because I think it's like you said, everybody expects them to blow the world away. And when it doesn't, and Jamie Dimon, I might not have agreed with his early stance on Bitcoin and other things in the world. One thing I'll tell you is the guy has a sense of what the market's going to do, and he's also pretty straightforward. He doesn't tell you things are good when they're bad. He's pretty straightforward there. What I'll be interested to see is he was one of the ones that really nailed, in my opinion, that we were going to have a soft landing. And he
Yep.
pointed to the fact that, he owns banks. He saw that people had more money in the banks than they ever had before. He saw
Right.
the credit card debts, while J.P. Morgan, not a huge player in that and trying to get out of that world that they're in except for Chase in the commercial in the public lending space. is that, he knew what credit card debt was going to be. Tomorrow we get that credit card debt information. So I'm going to be
Yes.
looking at that because I do think it's going to give us a play there. And I will say JP Morgan's pretty volatile on earnings day. So it's a fun one to watch. I can't wait to have you on Friday. You're here Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays with us. And we will have a big announcement about a new show, I think, coming up soon with you.
Okay.
But this Friday we'll definitely be watching JP Morgan as they go into earnings here because I think that's going to be what I look at. What does Jamie Dimon say to the analysts after the earnings are announced? I think that, that's what's going to be important to me. I think when it comes to having a feel for a global economy, you have Warren Buffett, you have Jamie Dimon, you have a few of these folks that really do have a good sense and that also give us the straight truth, I would say.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Jamie Dimon is the man. He has a great. He's what I like to refer to, and they're not many, but visionaries. They can see outside of the forest to the horizon and into where things are going. And I think one thing you would want to watch, Howard, would be what they call the loan loss reserves against credit card debt. I would expect based on comments and things you see in the public space that you would expect to see that increased. And that's kind of that telltale that you're talking about,
Yeah.
kind of warning shot.
Because that's what you have to worry about, is if we see that economy, credit card debt keeps on going up and up, and if labor doesn't follow, we'd seen wages follow that inflation up. If we don't, what happens then? What else do you have on the horizon this week that you're looking at? Anything particular that our viewers should be honed in on?
Well, I think that the interest rates are going to be, to me, right now we're all looking at the geopolitical events in the Mid East, and I think that that's where the focus should be. But separately, watch RBNZ, the New Zealand Central Bank. They've been kind of, holding on to rates here on the higher side. If they begin to cave in, followed by India reducing rates, this could be another, not today, but something to put on the horizon. That stimulus is in the pipes. And that is a big positive that as we go forward. I'm looking at October to be probably a little bit more on the negative side. You have a U.S. election early in November, and these are going to be volatile events. So you've got to be very flexible in these markets. Sell rallies, or as Steve likes to say, buy the dip and sell the rip.
Absolutely. You don't even know, but I have a podcast with a gentleman from Prosper Trading, Charlie Moon, called Dips to Rips, and that's what we
Okay.
talk about. Is exactly that right there. Steve, thank you so much for joining us today. We're gonna have you back on Wednesday, and we'll see you then. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks, Howard.
And Quasar Markets Live, join us back here at 12 o'clock. I'll be on with Agnieszka Wood doing our trading mindset moment where we get you reset after the early morning, tell you how to take a deep breath, and she gives you some tips for best habits to have as you trade. And then at 1 o'clock, we have Scott Bauer from Prosper Trading live from the floor of the CBOE. Thanks again, Stephen. We'll